I'll do the intro.
Okay.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Pro Physique Code. Today I have an exciting episode for a couple reasons. For one, I'm going to introduce you guys to Juma, who is a brand new on the scene competitor. Not so new that she isn't already Olympia qualified, but new to a lot of people, right? And she's on her way to being a household name. So it's also going to be fun for me because we kind of met in passing and right in the thick of the season, and there was no stopping or passing go. We just went right into show after show. So I haven't actually spent that much time with you. So I think this is going to be fun for me as well. I mean, I've met your babies, I've met your husband, but I haven't gotten to know you that well. So I'm going to interview you just out of curiosity, because I think a lot of people assume to be a bikini Olympian, you've got to live your life a certain way. And I think they're going to be excited to see a successful professional mom is getting it done. And the first thing you said to me was where you grew up. So why don't let's talk about your name and where you grew up, because I think that's the first thing that people see when they see your name. They go, okay, what's going on there?
Yeah, so it's funny because I've heard so many pronunciations of my name. And so it's funny to me every time I meet a new group of people, I'm like, wow, like I can't wait to see how they say this. But so my full name is Ndeye Fatu Juma Ndur. And well, Juma is really my real name, but Ndeye comes first. And so when I moved to the States, they were like, well, this is your first name. And I was like, okay, sure, that's my first name. So I grew up in Africa, in Senegal. I was there until I was 19 and then came to the States. And actually, how I got here is a little bit of a funny story because my dad is a fighter pilot. And so I thought I wanted to be a fighter pilot. And so one day he told me, well, do you want to go to school in the US? And I said, yeah, sure. Um, I did not know he was sending me to the Air Force Academy and it was going to rock my world. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
So wait a second, just so I'm clear, you went to the Air Force Academy for Senegal or in the United States?
In the United States.
Okay, so he
But
was a fighter pilot in the United States.
well, he did part of his training here, part of his training in England, but he flew for the Senegalese Air Force.
Oh, wow. Okay. I don't even know how all those dots connect, but I'm happy
Right?
you're here. Okay.
Yeah.
So you went to the Air Force Academy in the United States.
Yes. Not
Okay.
knowing what it was when
Right.
I.
So I actually have a little bit of a background in aviation. I actually used to
Oh,
do
cool.
air traffic controller simulators, my
Oh,
previous
wonderful.
career. So I
Yeah.
worked with a lot of people from the Air Force and a
Yes.
lot of people that were pilots, and there are some very specific requirements to be a pilot, correct?
Absolutely. Yes.
So let's talk about how did that transit? Did you get very far trying to be a fighter pilot?
Well, I did. So pretty much he sent me there and I did my whole 4 years, had my pilot slot and everything. But at the end of the day, it came down to it wasn't in my heart. That's something that, I grew up watching Top Gun. I didn't even speak English, but I was like, oh my God, this is cool. Look at these planes. But at the end of the day, once I figured out what I really wanted to do, being a pilot was not that.
How
And
old were you when you learned English?
I was 19 when I came here.
I would never guess. You don't even have a hint of an accent.
I say a lot of weird things sometimes, and people laugh at me, but I'm
Well,
like,
you
wow,
live in Alabama.
yes.
So listen, I grew up in Tampa. I went to college in Georgia and they
Yeah,
thought I was weird.
right. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. But yeah, I mean, I took English in high school, like, you would take Spanish, but if somebody threw you in Spain, you know,
No. Yeah.
so yeah,
But
and then
you know how to say, where is the
alcohol,
bathroom?
yes, and where's the food? Because I'm a big, big eater. Um, so yeah, so did the whole thing, did my 4 years, got out, and then went to nursing school. Then I decided to go to anesthesia school, did that for the whole whatever 3 years. And then I'm here now in Florida uh, with my husband and my two kids.
So let's not jump too far ahead. So you get out of the Air Force after 4 years. How old are you? Is that like 22, 23?
23.
Okay, so 23, and you were Where is the Air Force Academy? I'm trying to remember.
in Colorado. And
Okay, so
that's another funny thing because in Africa, all I saw was, I was watching Law and Order. So I was expecting the New York type of scene. And so when I landed in Colorado, I was like, what is this? Where are the skyscrapers? I don't see the police cars. This is not it. I'm lost.
yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, so describe a little bit about Senegal because it's on the coast, the west coast of Africa. Did you live near the water? Was it like a good childhood there?
It was wonderful, honestly. I lived right on the water. So Dakar is the capital,
Hmm.
and it is pretty much, if you can picture Africa, it's the most western point in
Okay.
Africa. And so, yeah, we live right on the coast. We love eating fish, lots of vegetables. My people are just very happy people. I mean, it's a third world country in Africa. So as long as people have food and family, we're just very happy people in general.
Okay. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I think Africa's so diverse. I mean, I have friends that are, one of our coaches lives in South Africa. I mean, you've got
Wow.
Egypt. I mean, it's just such a diverse continent. So I literally know nothing about Senegal. So just that's awesome that you speak so positively of it. Because I think for better or worse, the American mindset is like nothing's as good as America, right? I've
Yes.
had the good fortune of traveling around the world and seeing like, wow, the world is awesome.
Yes.
Yes, we have some awesome things here in America. Um, basically like the roads, the internet, the electricity is always on, those kind of things. But like sometimes you travel around the world, you're like, wow, you would never expect to find such amazing things. So how often do you ever get to go back?
So I used to go back a lot when my family was still back there. But since we started having kids, my mom, my dad, and my brother moved here. And so now I don't really have a big reason to go back. I mean, my grandmother was a huge reason back then. She was the only one left. She lived to be about 103 and she passed last year. And so
That's incredible.
yeah, yeah. I mean, she was asking for a job. She just wanted us to let her watch the kids.
You know what's amazing? I just watched a series on Netflix all about the blue zones. I don't know if you're familiar with the blue zones,
I am.
but the for those that aren't familiar, the blue zones are the areas on this planet. There's like 6 or 7 of them where the average age is over 100, where people they live their average age, right? And some of them live 110. And so they went and they did an investigative series on what's the commonalities.
Yeah.
And almost all of them had no point of air quotes retirement. They
Right.
always stay useful.
Yes.
um there was definitely an element of a lot of activity. Like one of them, I remember it was like this village in Italy and it had a very steep incline and they would walk up and down, up and down. One of them, and I one thing I noticed was that a lot of it was what you would describe as like a third world country environment, or where like manual labor is just a requirement for everyday life. So is that kind of, would you describe that as your grandma?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, my grandma had 10 kids and she did amazing. She kept working, 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 working nonstop. And like I said, even to 103, she just wanted a job. She
Yeah.
just wanted a job.
Well, 10 kids, that means she must have had 30, 40 grandkids.
Oh, yeah. I mean, my mom only had me and my brother, but other people did pretty well.
Yeah. It's a big family reunion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have cousins and aunts and uncles that I don't even know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, all right. Well, so do you have dual citizenship then?
I do. I do. So I pretty much became American, I want to say, I don't remember exactly, but maybe 2015.
So that's, I mean, the military is obviously one quick way to get your citizenship, right? Like they kind of fast track you. You become a part of our, military right away. You're
Yeah.
in.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, it was such a great experience. I would do it all over again. And I'm so grateful. When I was there, I was crying every night, telling my dad I'm coming home, which I'm so glad he didn't let me. And but yeah, wonderful experience. The military is just something that I believe everybody should at least be exposed to at
Yeah.
some point.
Yeah.
Both my kids are going. I don't care what they say.
Both my parents were Marines. That's how
Oh,
they met.
yeah.
So I had the opposite feedback from my dad. He was like, "Go to the military if it's your last resort."
Oh, wow.
He was very much about go to college, go
Yes.
live. He didn't like the idea that the military could kind of tell us what to do. Um, but I guess it also comes down to the branch. I think the Marines and the Air Force are very different. I know the inside jokes were always that the Air Force was the cushy, they had nice barracks, they, type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, absolutely. When people tell me they want to go Army or Navy or whatever, I tell them, no, go Air Force. And you'll
Yeah.
have a good life. So
So did you decide to get right out after 4 years and go do something else?
yeah, so pretty much right after 4 years, I actually, when I really didn't want to be a pilot, they gave me the option to actually do air traffic control. And that's another thing I felt like was just not going to be me. I mean, it requires a tremendous amount of attention and
Yep.
stress level is very, very high. Not that my current job, the stress level is high too, but I feel like it's just different. So yeah, so I got out and decided anesthesia was going to be what I really want to do and what I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
And so I went that way.
So you are is it CCRN? How does it?
CRNA. Yeah. So it's
CRNA.
anesthetist. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know how familiar you are with me, but I actually have another client who is a CRNA. She lives in
Yeah.
Colorado now. She lived in Pittsburgh before, but while I was coaching her, she got her pro card. She went back to school, got her CRNA, and
Yeah.
yeah, she hasn't made her pro debut yet.
Definitely.
She's living life a little bit, but um, yeah. So and also I don't know if you've met Kathy Seitz. She's another one of my physician's assistants. So I think there's some crossover there. People that are, you know, into fitness.
Absolutely. And it's funny because last year for Halloween, they were making these memes about, Halloween costumes. And there was one that was a CRNA, and the description was, oh, part-time bodybuilder and blah, 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 blah. And I laughed. And the funny thing is back then, again, I knew nothing about bodybuilding. And so this year, I want to find that same meme, and that's going to be my profile picture because that's literally what I ended up becoming.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into a little bit of let's fast forward to the husband situation.
Oh, that's another little funny thing because, like I said, when I just got here, I didn't really speak English. And you've met my husband. He's a pretty big person, and he's smaller now than he used to be when I met him. And so he was trying to make small talk. And back then, if I didn't understand what somebody said to me, I would just walk away. I was a little too embarrassed to say, hey, I didn't understand. Please repeat yourself or whatever, whatnot. I thought people would just judge me for being stupid or whatever. So I would just walk away. So we had this place called Mitch's, and that's where we would get our dinner at the academy. And so I guess one day he asked me, oh, what's for dinner at Mitch's? And he said that I just looked straight at him and just walked away. And, and he thought I was so mean, but I just didn't understand what he said. And I just walked away because I was like, what is this big American saying to me? I don't know. I'm scared. Let me walk
So wait a
away.
minute. You went into the military not even fully speaking English?
No, but I mean, so what really helped me is the fact that I took pretty advanced classes in high school.
Okay.
So I'm not going to say it was a cakewalk academically for me, but it kind of was because I took Calc 3 in high school and then I come back here and they making me take Calc 1. And I'm sitting there like kind of laughing, not even having a textbook because I'm like, I know how to do this.
Yeah.
So math is math, chemistry is chemistry. I was validating so we had this thing where if you had a certain grade up until finals, you didn't have to take the final. So I would validate all my classes like that. And some of them, my chemistry, physics classes, I didn't even have to take the final. So
Yep.
that was a blessing. But I had to take English as a second language class and a special English class for foreigners. But but yeah, so I made it through the academy and it was a wonderful
So
experience.
where's your husband from?
Oh gosh, he's corn boy, Ohio
Oh,
bred.
okay. So no accent. I was wondering
Oh
if,
no.
he was a country boy being like, "Hey ma'am, where's that mess hall?" So like,
No, no, he was just big and impressive. And I guess I don't know. I don't even know. I don't even remember that instance.
oh,
He
okay.
who told me about it. I don't even remember it.
Okay. So he just was like, well, never mind. Done with
Yeah.
that girl.
Yeah. And then he found me on Facebook years later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. Because he said, well, he was like, well, then when you moved to Destin, I had a friend who was stationed there. So he kept coming by and he used to see me apparently, but still didn't get the nerves to talk to me because, I mean, last time he talked to me, I was a mean girl who walked away. And so years later, he found me on Facebook and messaged me. And I was like, well, we have enough mutual friends and they're from the academy. So, okay, I must know this guy. And so he was like, "Hey, how are you doing? I'm moving to the area." But at that point, I had moved to Virginia. So I was like, "Oh, I'm not here." And
This
so
poor
he's,
guy.
yeah, this poor guy. And he was like, "Well, I'm gonna go to training in Columbus, Georgia. So you should come down if you get a chance." And I was like, "You know what? Sure." And so I went down there. And to be honest with you, I, I'm I'm not saying everybody should do this, but 3 months later we were married. And
Wow.
yeah, best decision of my life. I mean, if you know him, he's the best person ever. Like best dad, best
I had a
anything.
very brief interaction with him, and he probably didn't tell you, but he just came up to me at Battle of the Bodies and
Yeah.
just privately said, "I just want to say thank you for working with Juma. We really value you as a coach, and she does, and so do I." And I was like, "Wow, thank you." Like, I don't get that all the time, so that was cool.
Yeah, yeah, he's that type of guy, and you know, he really is a good person. I really lucked out. I'm so glad he was persistent.
Yeah, yeah. When guys want something, they tend to go after it, and when they don't, they tend to be wishy-washy and make you feel weird.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, I mean, how long you guys been married now?
7 years.
7 years and two babies.
Yeah.
You gave Daraja baby fever for sure at Battle of the Buddies because her husband's white, and so she's looking at y'all like, "Oh my gosh,
Yes,
that's my future."
yes, exactly. Oh my gosh, I'm very partial, but I think mixed babies just, and I'm a nerd about it. I think just the whole having two genetic pools that are so diametrically opposite,
Sure.
just, I don't know, to me,
Yeah.
it's a nerd thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you meet your husband, married 3 months later. At what point, or are you already going to the gym and like lifting weights, looking at the bikini division? Had like when did that enter the equation?
Well, let me back up a little bit actually to tell you a little bit about my sports story.
Yeah, for sure.
Because so at the academy, obviously, it was very athletic driven, right?
Hmm.
And so I remember at some point they wanted me to join the track team. And I was like, no, I was just such a nerd and so focused on my grades because I was like, no, you don't understand. I come from Africa. I'm here for school. And I remember my roommate was recruited for track and she kept talking to me about it because I was running and all that. But anyways, I was way too focused about school. I was so focused that so we had a what we called a PFT test, and it was a 2 minute run, a long jump, sit-ups, and pull-ups. And back then, coming from again the whole Africa thing, women are not really supposed to look a certain way. And so I was always doing my best not to build muscle. So I needed 250 to pass that test because it's 5 events, 100 points each. So I figured that I maxed the run, I maxed the sit ups, and I maxed the long jump, and I passed the test. And if I do that, then I don't have to do push ups or pull ups to not build my upper body.
Yeah.
Crazy. People were so upset at me. They were like, you have so much potential and you're not doing it. And I was just like, nope, I am not doing it. I passed your test. There you go. Let me get back to my homework, you know?
Yeah.
So that was my mentality. So it's funny that now that I'm a bodybuilder, some of my friends from that era, they like, I cannot believe it. Like, I just cannot believe it that you are doing this. And so to answer the question of when did I really start working out, I guess I want to say, gosh, I can't even really remember.
You're gonna break a lot of people's hearts right now.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say maybe before baby number one. I would say probably because school was really hard after that. I would say maybe 2015 is probably when I really started working out because after that, I really got into dancing. So I'm
Okay.
a Latin ballroom dancer. So that was pretty much
Oh,
my
wow.
physical activity. And so I did that for a while, and that I got pretty serious about too.
Well, that
It,
definitely helps you with the stage presence, right? You're never nervous up there, are you?
sometimes I am,
Really?
especially last time, I was just having fun and I was bobbing a little bit, and I need to definitely calm that down. But I was just so happy last time. I
Yeah.
really was. Genuinely, it was the best time I've had on stage, and I didn't even know what the outcome was going to be, but it
It
was,
generally works out like that. When I talk to competitors about how they felt like after they won like a big overall or Olympia qualification or something like that,
yeah.
they tend to just say, you know what, I was just calm all day and the result was going to be what it was going to be, but I felt great.
Yeah, yeah, that's literally what happened. But yeah, I mean, working out really was probably about 2015. I remember really wanting to be healthy through my first pregnancy. So I really worked out back then. Um, Definitely wanting to bounce back and being healthy after the baby, after our son. We had our son first in 2019. And then after that, got pregnant again in 2020. And yeah, still just wanting to be healthy after pregnancies. I mean, people at my gym, I tell them, you guys have really seen the progression from me being pregnant at the gym to coming back after the baby to training for my first show and, all the way up until now. So,
You know, so I'm curious, you're doing the ballroom dancing, you start working out. What's your first experience with the world or the sport of bodybuilding?
so not much other than my husband being from Columbus, Ohio, and making jokes about being jacked and tan. You
Yeah.
know, I
Did you
used
ever go to the Arnold with him? Because that's a huge.
no,
Okay.
no, I've never been. I want to though this year. I
Well, I
mean,
have good news for you.
yes,
You can apply.
yes, sir. I
You
fully,
have to place top 3 at a pro show even to apply. Doesn't mean you'll get in,
yeah,
but I think they've opened up the applications. So if you're interested, we'll talk about it after.
yes, sir, absolutely. Um, but yeah, so we used to make the joke that I'm tan, he's jacked. So between the two of us, we're jacked and tan.
Okay, so I got you. Now it's
Morning.
making sense. So was he familiar with bodybuilding? Has he competed before?
He's never competed before, but just being from Columbus, he's been very into Arnold and everything about
Yeah.
that. Um, but me specifically, no, not until I remember in December, we were at a champagne festival, and actually my husband and one of my friends' husband were talking about the whole competing, and my husband was like, yeah, she's thought about doing it one time or whatever. And I was like, don't tell people, because if you tell people, then I'm gonna have to do it.
Yeah, they're going to ask you
And
all the time.
yeah. And so my friend was like, well, there's this show in April. And I was like, okay, if you do it, I'll do it. And she was like, okay. And we were like, well, sure, let's do it. And that's when I really started, researching about bodybuilding and
What
trying.
month? What month was this when you decided to do the show in April?
December
Okay,
2000.
so you gave yourself a little bit of time to focus on. prepping.
Yeah, yeah. So I had a full on, I think, 20-week prep for my first show. Yeah.
So I would say it went pretty well.
Thankfully.
So you win true novice, you win novice, you win armed forces, and you win open. I mean,
Surreal.
you probably got more trophies than I got for my whole career at one show.
That's so funny. Well, I mean, and it's actually interesting. I was cleaning my table, so all of them are over here, but it was really, really surreal. Um, when I when I signed up for the show, I looked up who the winner was the previous year, and it was Alice Rocha. And oh my
Oh,
God, yeah,
she won the overall at Junior USA's.
she did. She
Yeah.
did. She did. And so I I looked her up and I looked up her physique and I started just literally like looking, okay, these are her shoulders. This is that. This is what this looks like. Because I mean, I did not know what anything is supposed to look like or what I need to work on or whatever, whatnot. And I actually reached out to her after I won that show. And she was so nice and very, very, very encouraging. And to this day, we talk a lot.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, yeah. And I told her I also did Junior USA because of her, because she did Panhandle and then went and won Junior USA. And so we keep talking, and she's really also helped me motivate myself to keep going through all the pro shows and everything. So I'm really glad that I met her. But yeah, so I looked her up and just went to work.
Yeah. So you went into the Panhandle show. Did you have expectations, or were you just like, you sound like a very competitive person? You're not just going, let's see how this goes. You want to win.
I am extremely competitive. Like we have game nights a lot, and it's funny because I'm the one that will trash talk the whole time because to me it's just funny.
Yeah.
It really is funny. And when I signed up for the show, people were like, "Oh, it's really competitive at this show. So we're just gonna go and see what happens." And so as much as part of me wants to win everything every single time, part of me was also just like, hey, also just have realistic expectations.
Yeah.
If you don't win, it's okay. So yeah, it was really amazing to win everything at that show. It really was.
So you walk out the door with the win. Did you already know, like, okay, Junior USA is the next move?
Not immediately. I think it took me probably a week to just sit back and decide, okay, well, and again, looking at Alice, I mean, she kept just getting more amazing. And so I was like, well, is this something that I can achieve in 6 weeks? And I wasn't sure that um, I was going to get to that level. But again, I always say this to people: you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Right.
So if I had just sat back and was like, well, maybe not, then I never would have been here today. And so I was just like, you know what? I'm going to go. And because people were telling me, well, you want to do more shows to get more experience and, get more feedback. And my point was, well, if I'm going to get feedback, I better get feedback from people who give the pro cards, and people who will tell me if I need to work on something, what do I need to work on?
Very smart. Very smart. You were on top of it from the beginning. So let's fast forward a little bit. You got 6 weeks. You
Mhm.
drive to South Carolina.
Yep.
Um, Junior USA's is a little bit of a different show in that you not only have to win your class, you also have to place in the top 4 of the overall.
Yes.
So I'm going to pull up your class. I'm going to see if I know anybody from class G. I don't recognize these names. I'm wondering if any of them have turned pro this year. So give me your thoughts when you get there and, at that point, did you know who Sandy was?
So I knew who Sandy was because I was practicing my posing to a video she didn't make it maybe, but there's a video on YouTube that has Sandy at a show doing a comparison round. And so I was practicing to that. And so hearing her voice on stage that day actually made me feel very calm because it's a voice that I kept hearing every single day. So to me,
Yeah.
it was very familiar. So that's how I knew who Sandy was. And I tried to find every podcast or every video or anything that had to do with her talking about, what they're looking for, or just learning anything I can learn about the sport. I mean, I have an hour-long drive to work, down and back. And so during that time, I make sure that I use that instead of, just listening to music. I listen to a
He
podcast.
also has a very calming effect because she makes a lot of eye contact. She
Yes,
smiles. She
yes.
makes you feel very comfortable on stage. And I'm sure now that you've done a lot of shows since then, you realize that's not always the case.
It's not. It's not. Some judges look at you and you're like, oh my God, they hate me.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And
Yeah.
that might not be the case, but she just emotes very well, to the point where some competitors, I've had competitors be like, Coach, I was all the way on the far side, but I think I won. I'm like, why?
That's
Sandy
fun.
just kept smiling at me. And I was like, I hate to tell you, but she smiles at
Oh,
everybody. Like
yeah,
she just makes everybody feel good.
she does.
Um,
She really does. Well, and I have to give you a shout out too, because on these drives, I've watched ton and ton and ton of videos that you've put out with amazing, amazing feedback and amazing knowledge and things that I feel like everyday people can just use, whether they
oh,
want to
good.
be builders or not.
Yeah.
Like it's just really good stuff out there.
Yeah. I think it's such the sport has a lot of people come and go. So the benefit of me sticking around for a long time now is I've accumulated a lot of the knowledge um, to speed up the success of my athletes, right? So it took me 3 years, 4 years before I had a girl win a pro card. Took me another couple of years to get to the Olympia. Now I've got girls at the top 4 at the Olympia. Like as a coach, you learn to speed up a competitor's success. As a coach, that's my job. I want to take you to where you're going to get and make
Right.
it a better journey. Whether that requires nutrition, training, posing, strategy, hair, makeup, whatever it is, you just start to recognize certain things. And
Yeah,
especially when it comes to winning a pro show,
absolutely.
every single thing has got to be right.
Yes.
So things that you can't even control have to be right. So, yeah, it's just such a special thing to win a show, to win a pro show, to win all these things are so special that I don't take them for granted. So I love to share that stuff as much as possible. This year's been tough. I just
Yeah.
been traveling so much.
Right.
So, all right. You get your pro card at Junior USA's, you go home. Where's your head at now?
I mean, I go home and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like this is another unexpected, win for me. Because everybody was, I mean, not everybody, but some people will tell you, well, yeah, you won at the regional level, but the girls at the national level, oh my God, like they will eat you up alive. And so I go there, I win my pro card, and gosh, I am just happy as can be. And at this point, I'm like, okay, I've done 2 for 2, but now this pro stage, it's like a really, really, really big deal. And these are the big girls. And now, like, this is really where I'm going to get eaten up alive. So I'm thinking, okay, I'll take a whole year, I'll grow, I'll figure out what needs to be done, and then I'll compete next year. I thought about that for a while, and the same thought came to my mind. Well, actually, Sandy told me when I won my pro card to go to the very next show. I remember there was a clash somewhere down south, and she was like, "You should go to this show." And at that point, I had already scheduled a vacation with my family
Yep.
I had just, there was just no way I was going to be able to do that show.
Right.
And so when I thought back about that, I was like, well, if Sandy thinks that I can hang with the pros, then maybe I should try out a pro show. And then again, the worst that can happen is feedback, and I will learn no matter what, right?
Yep.
So I decided, okay, well, I'll do Daytona. And I kept thinking about South Carolina. I'm a very sentimental person. And I was like, well, where do I really want to do my pro debut? And I thought about it and I was like, well, maybe the stage where I actually got my pro card. That would be kind of a cute, sentimental thing. And so there was Clash in August. So I jumped into that one. And when I got third at that show, I could not believe it. I just, wow, that was, I think that was the point where my husband sat me down, and he's just, again, the best person in my life. And he told me, if you really want to do this, we will do everything we can so that you can be successful, because seems like, this is just not a fluke that you're just doing so well
Right.
this early, that let's just sit down and see what it's going to take for you to make it in the sport. And yeah.
Yeah, I think at a show like that Clash show where you had multiple girls already qualified for the Olympia, one who had previously won the Olympia, um, and you placed ahead of a bunch of girls who are and at the Olympia, it was a pretty big indicator. That was the first time. No, I remember you from Junior USA's very clearly, because I was watching. But that was the first time that I really was like, hold on, like this girl has all the body parts. You've got the stage presence. You've got the structure, the muscularity. The two girls you are standing next to are very muscular girls, right? So, Issa is hard to stand by for anybody, and Ariana is on her way to being in that same category. So for you to be right up there, and I believe they did a call out with just you three.
Yes.
Yeah, they and I was like, wow, like it's very clear, like these three are just different. So yeah, that was, now at that point I wasn't coaching you, so I was just more admiring, like, okay, this girl's definitely got something. But I mean, that's one thing I love about the bikini division. It's if you fit the criteria, if you show up conditioned, if you have what they're looking for, you will be successful right away. And some of these girls, they've been working for months and years, and we'll talk about a couple of those competitors as we go through your season. It's just a lot more difficult, right? And that
Yeah.
just means everybody's journey is different in this sport, right? Some girls go from NPC to the Olympia in 3 shows. Some girls it takes 5 years.
Yes.
Some you just have a different ceiling. I think you're probably just starting to think like, okay, maybe I don't have a ceiling.
I mean, I don't want to, put the, what do they say in English? The horse before the,
Cart before the horse.
yeah, cart before the horse, but I'm working real hard to just go as far as I can and even beyond, because none of this could I have ever imagined would happen. And so I'm just going to keep working hard and hope that I keep doing things that I couldn't have imagined.
Yeah, and I think that's the attitude you got to have is put yourself out there, give it your all, take the feedback, because you're going to have highs and lows, which you've already experienced. We'll talk a little bit about your season.
Yeah.
And some people cannot handle that highs and lows. They can only handle the highs, and as soon as they hit a low, they check out, they go find something else to do. And I'll say this, I've been coaching for so long now that I recognize this trait. Everybody, to put it bluntly, gets punched in the mouth in this sport, and it's what happens next. Do you
Right.
complain? Do you bitch about the judging? Do you bitch about the politics? Do you bitch about this and that? Or do you go, what do I got to do?
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about your season, because after that third place, now you're like, oh, okay. So imagine if Issa and Ariana aren't there, I'm going to the Olympia.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, pretty much I was thinking, okay, well, I have pretty good chances at this point.
Yeah.
So let's just keep hitting shows and see what happens.
Yeah. So your next stop, I believe was it Muscle Contest, the next one?
It was. So
Yeah.
it was muscle contest in Anaheim. And I placed sixth at that show.
Yeah.
I got first call out, but then placed sixth. And I think, you know, looking back, that's probably one of the shows that I learned the most at. And to me, it was just, there are very, very different bodies in bikini. I guess some are short, some are tall, some are more muscular, some are leaner. And I think I just learned that the fact that there are just very, very, very different bodies.
Yeah. Yep. And
Yeah.
I think you also have to understand that the competitors have long careers and they start to develop, in my opinion, familiarity with certain people, certain judges. And so even I, as a coach and someone who I just start to see the same people over and over, and you notice them first.
Yeah.
And so I know the judges work very hard to uphold the standard, but I still think sometimes there's just, variation in judging decisions based on familiarity. And it just takes, it just takes a minute for them to go, man, this girl is really good. Okay,
Mhm.
what's going on here? So, and then also I think this is when we started talking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Um, we started talking right after this show. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you messaged me, I was obviously excited. You had developed a friendship with Aaron.
Yes.
And this is another case where had you reached out to me 5 years ago, I would have been like, oh, I don't know what to do now. I got
Yeah.
this girl that should be going to the Olympia. Can I do that? Instead, I go, no, I am the best person for this job. I know what needs to be done. I immediately got to work and we just started discussing things from your posing to your peaking to show day stuff and just fine tuning the details to make sure, because like we discussed earlier, the pro stage, everything has to be exactly right on that day at that moment.
Absolutely.
No one asks you how much cardio you're doing. They don't ask you where you're from. They don't ask you how many shows you've done. They don't ask you if you're tired. They're just like, who are these 3 people, 5 people? Who is the best and why on that day?
Yeah.
And so we immediately got to work, and I was thrilled with your look at Battle of the Bodies. Thrilled. I mean, you were full and tight, and I got to see you in person the day before we trained. And that show was interesting because Daraja came in much softer than we usually are. And I felt like they were rewarding her shape and fullness. And because you were kind of a little bit tighter than everyone, I think you end up in fourth, right?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I immediately was like, you just, as a coach, you just know, like, okay, you're winning a show. There's no way they're going to be able to stop you from winning. At any point, did you start to get discouraged? Because this is the time when you're like, okay, to me, I could hear it in your voice. You're like, what do I have to do to win? I'm right there.
I think for me, and it's gonna come back to the academy, I feel like I can do anything I put my mind to. I mean, there's literally zero quit in me because I've had to do things that I thought that was my limit, and they took me further. They took me way past that. So I feel like in life now, when I go through things and when I go through situations, that I know I have the endurance to go further. And so there's no point where I really quit. I might get a little bit sad. I might get maybe a little more anxious is the word, because
Yeah.
I'll sit there and try to figure out, okay, well, we didn't get it here. What do I need to do to get it on the next one? So it might be more of that than anything, but there's literally no quit in me. There's
The thing about an Olympia qualification is you get 1 at bat per week max.
Yeah.
And I know some girls would kill to just be in that first call out. Like that's their goal, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
once you've been in that first call out and you've been near the middle, it's no longer good enough. And so I've had a lot of competitors, the expectations kind of ruin the sport for them.
Right.
Because if they go in expecting top 5 and they get ninth, they're
Yeah.
crushed. If they
Yeah.
go in with no expectations and they get ninth, they're like, cool, I made top 10. I get to do my routine at finals, right? Maybe
Yeah.
people don't know this, but there's in the sport, and it's one of the things that makes this particular sport great, bodybuilding, the bikini division, is that there's so many layers to it between true novice, novice, open, nationals, first call outs at nationals, pro card, pro debut, like there's so many layers to it, all the way up to Olympia, first
Yeah.
call outs at the Olympia, when, like it's almost endless. And that climb is what's really makes it great, because you're constantly like, what can I do next?
And I think the other blessing about being so new into the sport is the fact that sometimes I don't even know, like it's people who tell me, you're making first call out every time. And I have to sit back and realize, oh, because there are some people who are really good who are not making first call out every time, like I feel like I've just been so go, 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 get better. We got this. Okay. Feedback, work
Yeah.
on the feedback next. Like I haven't had time to just sit down and just even acknowledge what has happened here.
Yeah, I
So I
think,
think that's also why sometimes I just don't really have the expectation.
I mean, you can count on your hands the amount of rookies that go to the Olympia. I mean, it's like maybe one a year. And I can't think of anyone else this year that pops in my head. I remember the young lady in Texas did it last year. I think Jordan Brandon did it her rookie year. I think Lana did it her rookie year.
Yeah.
Daraja did it her rookie year. But I mean, it's literally such a short list because, just like the jump from NPC regional show to national show, it's the same thing from the pros. But I always say this, what really stands out on the pro stage, that's really where genetics take over, because I can be the best coach in the world, but I can't make your shoulder to waist ratio what God already made it.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I can't, if you've got super wide hips and narrow clavicles, it's just going to be a tough road.
Right.
I can help you peak perfectly. I can have you peeled. I can have you full. I can have you hair and makeup right. But like when you're standing up there in a group of 30 pros, and this is why I think your pro debut, you stood out, because you were just the only one up there that could stand next to those two. And I mean, you got a lot of looks that day. Like, it's very interesting. I think, your posing was a little off, could have been very interesting if you came into that show a little differently. So, and that's what's been fun. You've been such a student. You worked with Brittany Hamilton on your posing.
Absolutely.
And you've always just had this like, okay, let's go. Like there was no question after Battle of the Bodies that you wanted to do San Antonio.
Oh,
Right?
yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah. I mean, and San Antonio is another show where I learned a whole lot as well, because I feel like I think for that show, it was a lot of my routine, really. My routine, my look, and just like you said, all the little details that really can make or break you.
Yeah.
Um, because sometimes as competitors, you can be backstage and look at somebody's body and be like, oh, well, thinking kind of like evaluating everybody's body against yours. I mean, everybody does that. But there's also, does it translate to the stage? Does it translate, when everybody's standing next to each other? And I think San Antonio was a big, big show for me for learning that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you had a well-known Olympian jump in at the last second. I think you and I were like, okay, we're going to be in the mix here. And
Yeah.
then, that happens. And she looked great. You looked great. But again, another top 3 placing. So, the thing that you worry about there is like, okay, how many at bats do we have left? We only had 2 at bats left.
Yes.
And we made the right choice with Daytona. you know, we've been very fortunate this year. I have with East Coast opportunities. I've been able to, have athletes stay close to home. Um, that the flying and the grocery stores and that can make things cumbersome. So let's talk about the mood going into Daytona. You and I made a couple changes. We noticed that you, with the really high carb day on Friday, your core wasn't as tight on Saturday. So
Yes.
we made the decision to not do a super high carb day on Friday and Thursday instead, and then come back down. And obviously that paid off. But what was your mood like going into this show?
Honestly, I feel like I was just so happy because for San Antonio, I traveled by myself. Like you said, the traveling, the flight, being stressed out about, retaining water or not. What am I going to do once I get there? And I remember I was so upset. So I guess TSA took my peanut butter and I was so sad. I had
Oh,
to,
it's like a liquid almost, I guess. That's weird.
but they will let you take full-on prepped meals.
Hmm.
And so I was like, well, what's the difference between if I could bring a whole chicken breast here and you would let me take it, but you won't let me take my peanut butter. And I was just so sad. But yeah, so just little things that happen during travel that you can't really plan for or correct as fast as you want to. Versus going to Daytona, being able to drive, have my husband with me, have support. And, it was just so much more stress free.
Okay.
And I really loved going to Daytona.
Yeah. Daytona, they had a big show on Friday night. I had all my Masters girls go Friday night. They didn't get done until midnight.
Yes.
The screen wasn't working, but your experience on Saturday was very good, right? Like the timing was good.
It was beautiful. And I love, love, love the shows where the NPC goes first, then the pros again, then the
Yep.
NPC.
Yep.
Those
Same.
are just, I mean, Clash was that way. And it's
I mean,
just,
to me, I think it pays homage to people that are pros. You get
yeah,
the favorable timing. You don't have to get up at 3 to do your makeup,
right.
and you don't have to wait till 10 p.m. to get your feedback. That's
Exactly.
that's kind of a right you've earned, in my opinion. Um, yeah, I fully agree with you. I love those shows too. Um, and so first call outs in Daytona, they call out 9.
Yeah.
So where were you to start?
So I think at some point, and sometimes when I got off stage, I even had to ask somebody where was I, but um I think I was two, maybe two girls from center. And then right after they called all of us, then I got moved to the center.
Yeah, so I had my spies in the audience because I was in Phoenix,
Yes.
and I literally got a picture.
Yeah.
And before you even got off stage, I was like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm like, oh my God, she's center out of 9.
Yes.
Like that to me doesn't happen very often. It's always 8 or 6 or 4. They never let you know. But I was like, wow, that is a really good sign.
Yeah.
And then Brittany was like, they did bring you and Jessica back out,
We did.
just you two, which is also another great sign that we're right there. You cannot end prejudging any better than splitting middle. They're never gonna just let one person go. You'll never actually know. I
Yeah.
have seen them end prejudging with like a call out of 5 and someone in the middle, but
Yeah.
it's pretty rare that you get that level of like calm. So
Yeah.
we had to wait a couple hours. Um, but I'm sure that was a pretty long wait for you.
Oh gosh, it was the longest 2 hours of my life because, when you're that close, it's one thing when they put me, if I know I'm gonna get top five or top four or whatever, like at least I know I'm not gonna get first place, but whatever number I'll get, I'll get. But when you're top two, you're like, oh my God, I could win this show. And that that 2 hours was just like a whole day. I think I
Yeah.
tried to take a nap and I couldn't even sleep because I just wanted to come back and find out, what
Yeah.
was outcome.
Yeah. And to be fair, that was some of the best lighting I've ever seen at a show.
Yes. Yes.
The
I mean,
pictures and videos are so crisp and so vibrant.
absolutely. That whole stage was just beautiful. I'm not just saying this because I won the show and now I'm biased, but I mean, the background, the stage, the lighting, the whole venue, because a couple of the venues I've been in have been so hot and I've been just drenched
Yeah.
in sweat. But this one, it was really big, really open. Everything was literally perfect.
All right. So you're hearing the call outs. This is always the most stressful moment. In fifth,
Yep.
fourth,
Yep.
third,
Yep.
in second, and they say Jessica.
Yeah.
I have a picture of you. You're standing next to Jessica, and I can see your lip quivering. You're like trying to hold it in. So describe that kind of moment.
I mean, that was probably one of the best moments in my life. I mean, I was like, well, when they say second, they will say where that person is from. And I just remember in my head, they said second from New Jersey. And my whole body just, I think, I don't know if it was an endorphin release or whatever it was, but I just felt a rush of something just come down. And I was just like, hold your composure. You're on stage. And I wanted to just cry at that point. I could feel the tears come out because I just couldn't believe that the moment had finally come. Like you know, you always hope, okay, this is the show, this is the show, this is the show. But until it actually happens, you're never just 100% sure, like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, and congrats to Jessica. So Jessica is someone I've known for years. She's got 2 seconds this year. She's
Yes.
got last year at the Clash or Girl Power. I think it was Girl Power. She got second to Ashlyn, and Lana got third. So like
Wow.
she's missed that Olympia qualification, like, and she's taking a shot this weekend in Atlanta.
She is. She
So
is. Good luck to you,
fingers
Jessica.
crossed. Yeah, like you want the best competitor to win, but I'm just hoping she shows up super on and gets in, just from a standpoint of a fan of the sport,
Right.
I
Right.
want her to get that done. We'll see.
And
Um,
backstage right before we went back out, and I don't know if Gilco got that shot or not. I think he tried. We really gave each other a hug and we held hands, and it was just a really cool moment, to
yeah,
have another competitor that I've seen, two, three times, and I really respect all the years that she's spent in the sport and all, everything that she's done. And so to just have that moment with her was really special. So
yeah. And that's one other thing I've noticed about the bikini division. And I'm sure you've noticed it by now too. Like you went to your first pro show knowing absolutely nobody, but there
nobody.
is this like sisterhood of the pro bikini division because you all know on any given day, it could be your day. On any given day, you could be in second call outs.
Yep.
Like, so it's almost like a respect thing.
Yeah.
Um, where I find that there's a lot of friendships developed backstage at shows. Obviously, with you and Aaron, um, that's kind of what guided us to be working together. So like that's cool that you got to have that moment with Jessica. And should she win this weekend, when you guys see each other at the Olympia, it'll be like you'll always be connected.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, Ari also is another super, super, super solid girl. I mean, I really have a lot of respect for her, and she's just so kind. She really is.
She's yeah, I will brag about the culture of my competitors. I take great pride in the fact that we support each other. I mean, when you went to San Antonio and I couldn't be there, Lexi went.
Yeah.
We had some other competitors there, and all I heard was great things about all of you supporting each other. Same thing in Daytona, you know. Um, and it's impossible for me to be at every show. And when I can't be there, that's what I love to hear is like, even though it went this way or this happened, coach, I had the best time. The girls are awesome. We went out to eat. We hung out backstage because it is an individual sport. 99% of the time, you're prepping your meals, you're at the gym, you're doing your posing, you're waking up for cardio, you're trying to get the kids off to school. Um, so it is nice to actually meet somebody that gets you and understands why you weigh out your rice cakes and peanut butter.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And especially for me, being so new, but trying to make it at such a high level, it's really nice to have, like you said, so many supportive girls backstage. I mean, Miriam will tell me, "Oh, let's do this, or let's do that, or hear this," or like she did the show the night before, so she was like, "Bring a pillow, bring this. The floor is hard," things like
Yeah.
that. That she didn't have to do that, but it's really nice to have other people just think about you.
Yeah. That's I take great pride in the success that the athletes that I get to coach have had, but I wouldn't be able to do what I do if that wasn't the case. If it was a bunch of catty, backstabbing people, I really would not enjoy what I do. Um, no, I look forward to every time I get to spend with you guys. If we do get to go out to dinner, if we do get to train together, those are the times that, you know, 20 years from now, who won, who lost,
Yeah.
but we're going to really remember like the times we spent together. And that's already the case. I have competitors that have come in, earned their pro cards, and they've retired, and they're still in close contact with me. We talk about their new businesses. We talk about we talk about that time in Vegas where we drank too much, like, you have this history that I think
Right.
we can get so caught up in the minutia of like, oh man, I got third. I hate that.
Yeah.
But in years to come, we're going to remember like, man, I had the best time that chime in South Carolina, which I would have never gone to if it wasn't for bodybuilding.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's another thing I was telling my husband as we're thinking about, where to settle, where to have our forever homes. I was like, you know what? This is great. I'm getting to see all of these cities that I never would have seen hadn't it been for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, you got one more city to see,
yeah.
Orlando.
Yes.
We've got 30 days.
Yep.
Um, and again, I'm happy that I've got this experience. This will be my fourth consecutive Olympia as a coaching. So I get to pass all this on to you.
Yeah.
Daraja had to learn the hard way that I didn't know what I was doing. um, last year I had multiple athletes competing, and this year will be the same thing. So I'm gonna enjoy. We'll get down there early in the week. We'll do all the things. We'll bring you in at your all-time best. And I feel like you're very hungry to compete. So I have a feeling you're not quite done this year.
I am not. I am not. I mean, I keep seeing all these little videos about people being like, "Oh, who's this new girl?" And I didn't know she was this good or whatever. And I just want to make it a point to surprise them even more. We're gonna go to the
Yep.
Olympia and show them something they've never seen.
Well, when I was in Phoenix getting feedback, you had already won your qualification. So
Yeah.
I showed Sandy. I said, Sandy, guess who's going to the Olympia? And
Yeah.
she was like so excited that
Yeah.
that you had continued. So yeah, you've made a name for yourself very quickly. And it's not hard to see why. I mean, you have extreme talent, and your attitude is so great. You've been able to, battle back through adversity and come out on top. So I think it speaks volumes for what's about to happen for the next, however long you decide to compete in bikini. Um, so yeah, 4 weeks.
4 weeks. And I could not thank you enough for everything you do for me. I mean, this is just an amazing team and you're an amazing coach. And I'm so glad our path has have crossed.
Well, that makes me happy because, like I said, I think there's a natural type of person that kind of gravitates towards our group. Ariana, you, Aaron, all met at the Clash. And I think that to me is more important. This is why I don't chase clients. I let them find us for the right reasons. And I mean, the scary thing, I told someone the other day, I said, the scary thing for me is like in the next year ahead, I'm going to have a list of competitors:
Yeah.
Brittany Hamilton, Lana Dunbar, you, Ariana, Daraja. Like that is a power packed group of competitors,
Yeah.
like um, it's just wild to me that only a few years ago I was like, man, I hope someday I have an Olympian someday, so I appreciate you just as much. And hopefully I get to hang out with your husband in the near future. You guys are going to come down for Orlando, so we'll have a lot of time that week. I'm gonna stay down there for the whole week because the way that's set up is they actually have the amateur Olympia on Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and there's a Clash show on Saturday, so I'll be there for the Clash show. I'll be there for the amateur Olympia. I might have
Wow.
to drive home and put the kids to bed one night and drive back, but it's
Yeah.
only like an hour and a half for me. But it's the one benefit of it not being in Vegas. So,
Right.
well, is there anything you want to share, like sponsors, people you want to thank, maybe how people can get a hold of you?
I do want to thank people. Definitely my family and friends. Well, God first, because none of this would happen without that. And my friends and family who really have been supporting me this whole time. I mean, I could not do any of this without them. Obviously, you. And I would like to thank MaxFit for sponsoring me. I would like to thank the Shark Gym for sponsoring me. And yeah, if people want to get hold of me, my Facebook is, I'm just not on Facebook that much.
None of us are anymore.
Yeah, it's terrible. But I still have to do it for my aunts and uncles and grandmas who want to see
Yeah,
the kids. It's crazy. But my Instagram is my first name, NDEYE underscore NDOUR underscore IFBB Pro. So yeah.
I'm pretty sure if you type in NDE, you're the first thing that pops up.
Yes.
So especially if you
Right.
follow the sport. So, and
Yeah.
I also have some posts on my page. If they can't find you, they can just go see the tags that I've made. And I'm working on something fun right now for you guys for this weekend or for this next post that I'm for you, Daraja and Ariana. I got one more girl competing this weekend. You know, she's doing the Legion, so I'm not expecting her to beat Amy, but I'm gonna wait to make the post just out of respect. Um,
Yes. Yes.
yeah,
Yes. Yes.
so we'll have some fun, and I'm excited for what's ahead.
Me
So thank
too.
you for coming on the podcast. I know people have been asking me; they wanted to get to know you a little bit. So we'll do we'll probably do a post Olympia update,
Absolutely.
just to put out some information.
Yeah.
And you know, if you get confident and you want to post some stories and just talk, it's very valuable to share this journey because a lot of people are curious. Just like you with Alice, you are the Alice for the next girl from the Panhandle area, right? So yeah.
Very, very true. Just also one other thing that I did not say. I really, really want to thank everybody from this area who puts on the shows and everything because I never would have, found the sport if it wasn't for the people who work really, really hard to, push the sport into these smaller areas. I mean, for you guys in Orlando, Tampa, Vegas, big cities,
Yeah.
it's there. But for us here, it really takes a lot of work for
It
people.
just shows like you never know who's going to walk through. There's at a bodybuilding show, you don't know what's going to show up. And so like
Yeah.
I can be coaching an athlete and be like, listen, you look absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
But I always tell girls, like, you never know when Janet Leeuw's going to walk in. You're Janet
Yes.
Leeuw. Like, you walked into that Panhandle show and everybody there was probably like, damn it. Like, what in the world? First show ever? Like, you weren't even on people's radar. And here
Yeah.
you are winning like 3 or 4 overalls and going to nationals, turning pro your first. So, I mean, you've literally done what, 7 shows in your entire life?
Yep. Started in April.
Yeah. So I think you and Ariana are like tied. She's
Yeah.
done, I think we're planning on doing Hurricane. I think that'll be her 8th show of her life. Wild, you know? So
It's
yeah, so
amazing.
you guys are both going to be doing the Olympia before you've done 10 shows.
Yes.
And then you've got the amazing Ashley Kaltwasser. I think she's 140 something,
40,
41.
48, because she did her DW 40 not
That's what I'm
long
saying.
ago.
Think about that. She's 140 pro shows.
I
3 of
mean,
those were Olympias. I think 2 were Arnold's, 1. So like, how many times has she gotten second? 40 or 50 times, third, 40 or like she's wild.
that's
So
tremendous.
lots
Tremendous.
of good times ahead.
Yep. Very
All right.
much.
Well, thank you guys for listening to the Pro Physique Code. Go check out Juma and follow us as we try to crack that first call out at the Olympia.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone.